go ahead. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it a little bit here as far as Rift Raids goes. First, if you watched the little my intro to my video when I sat down with the devs, I did sit down with them on Friday and had a fantastic conversation with Mark and Danny. They're fantastic people. Like I was saying in the video, you can see, and this is what crushes me, is that if you could have heard their excitement and the passion they have for the game, the Disney franchise, the community, I don't know, I think you probably would have been wowed by them. They're fantastic people. They had a lot of great things to say, and I just wish that could have come through. Unfortunately, through some technical difficulties early on, I was trying to get rid of an echo. I hit a couple buttons I probably shouldn't have. Well, I shouldn't have, and it ended up just being
you're the
me.
old one, right?
What?
Confirmation you're the old one.
Yeah. Hey, I like Lori. I like Lori's description. She said vintage, not old. So I think I think I'm gonna go with that one.
Takes vintage to know vintage.
So I still had all the great information that I wanted to get out to everybody. So I put together what I could to get that out. There's a lot of great information there. We'll talk about that now as we go into this, because I'm actually looking forward to Dan and guests, what questions they might have, or all of you might have about Rift Raids coming up. So when we were talking about Rift Raids themselves, one thing that I thought was pretty cool as we were all playing through it is that you could actually get taking into account our power levels. I think our power levels are pretty high for the most part, and we started off around tier 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're seeing recommended power levels of teams on the Sentinels, around 5. We were, around 12, 13K?
Yeah, so tier 5 are, because long story short, there are multiple different Sentinels. Some of them have up 4 to 6 minions that you have to take down. So we're looking at like the bigger minions, because the more the minions, the higher the power you're going to need to take that Sentinel down at full force. At tier 5, the recommended power was roughly around like 6 or 7K, but by the time we got to tier 11, it was going up into the 30K range.
Yeah. Now, I will caveat some of that, though. Like, I know that sounds scary for a lot of people. Like, oh, man, 30K, like, my best team is 11K, 12K. But, to Guest's point, if you take down the minion nodes, it's going to weaken them. But even without that, I mean, yes, I'm probably one of the higher end. I wouldn't say higher end accounts, because I know there's many accounts higher than mine. But taking in some of my teams, I was still punching up pretty heavily with 13K teams taking on 30K teams without taking any of the minion nodes. But before we kind of jump in there, I also want to caveat, which I said on my other stream when somebody was asking, like, so Spellrex Owler, you may know her by either name over on the Discord, but she joined us and she's free to play. Like, she's had a couple gift cards that she's bought a couple like the orb cards with, or the Mickey with, but outside of that, really hasn't spent in the game. And she came in 5th on the leaderboard. So, I mean, if you feel like she beat out, and again, this is no diss to anybody, but people know these names. I mean, she beat out Ibby, she beat out Izzy, she beat out Jones. All 3 of those are like, 2-year players in the beta with giant accounts. So, I mean, again, I think there is this whole thing of when you're using your free to play, you can still do this. You just have to know, 1, what team you're using against one Sentinel, and then 2, you may have to take down a couple nodes, like take down a couple minion nodes, weaken them down once you get to that 10 plus. But I would say up until 10, we were just kind of going in without messing with the minions for most of the tiers.
Yeah, and I guess really kind of my point of starting at tier 5 and taking a look at those power levels there is that we've got 30 tiers to go. We're going to go, I mean, we've got a lot of gameplay there before we can max these tiers out. I mean, I don't know. I'd be interested to find out once Rift Raids get here how far some of the highest accounts actually get, because I can imagine if I remember correctly, and again, not to scare anybody, because again, the minion nodes actually make quite a bit of an impact on reducing that overall power level. But if I remember, Scrooge was at 47K with all of his power on tier 13, with all the minions still intact. And as I took 1 node down, and his power level dropped fairly significantly, at least I'm trying to remember. Like, you remember? Guest has it. What do you got?
Pick me. Okay. So, all right. So this is important to understand when it comes to like how the Sentinels and the minions work as well. And I think we kind of need to remind and explain this part too, because we know this from the playtest.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been worded out necessarily to the community, because we're going to throw out some crazy numbers.
Yep.
You know, upwards of literally over 100K as a recommended team power. But understand this: if it's one of those nodes where, let's say, the Sentinel boss is a fractured Gaston, for example, okay? If you're going up against that fractured Gaston and he has all 6 of those minions up, each one of those minions represents 150% power increase from the original team recommended power construction, okay? So as you scale that 150% and then a full 150%, it's not like 150, 300, 400. No, the math actually scales 150 and then another 150 multiplied again, not added together.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that, if I'm anywhere close to where my calculations are, because if you know me from my stream, you guys know I'm about the maths. And I took a look at where we were when we started around tier 5 and tier 6, looked at that Gaston, looked at where we ended around tier 11, 12, and 13, right around there when I could get into the Gaston before they had one of the nodes taken down, the minion nodes.
Mm-hmm.
I am able to currently project that a 6 minion Sentinel, fully equipped, fully stacked, at tier 30 is going to be over 110,000 recommended power, which sounds incredibly scary. But if you take down all 6 minions, it's only 10K. Now, a 10K recommended power on tier 30 for 3 very specific guardians that you're going to need by the time you get up there, because you're going to have requirements and restrictions that you're going to have to use in that specific team composition to battle that 10K team. Maybe that can help some of the community understand why the rank up and the adjustment is also happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not losing. We saw the power adjustment in the playtest. We know that.
Yeah.
But we are not losing everything we gained. We got rank ups and Astral Star rank up increases, a whole bunch of stuff in the beginning of September. Now they're dialing a little bit, comparatively less than half of what we got scaled up. We're being kind of just re-leveled back down. It is not going to be an end of the world adjustment. But when it comes to the Rift raids, it's about making sure that the Rift raid is targeted to do every single layer of the Rift raid, which includes the minions in tier 5 and tier 6. You guys know we were just going right for the Sentinel.
Yep.
Just go for the Sentinel, get it done. I mean, Default, you punched up how high at one point? You want to talk about that?
I took my 12 or 13K team into, it was like a 31 or 32K team, and took it down. Didn't lose a single character. So again, it does come down to knowing how to use your team and synergies and all of that. But it's pretty good. I before we jump into another thing, I do want to kind of just hit that topic a little bit, which is this adjustment of power, because again, we all saw it in the Discord. I think it got blown out of proportion because people saw this number and they said 2 + 3 + 5 + 7, whatever's 20, whatever the numbers were. I don't remember, but they were like, it's a 20% decrease. Well, it's not really. When you look at the maths, it's like 2% off of this rank, 3% off of that rank. So when you do your maths and the way they stack, it's not 20%. And I know Unstable, we looked at this. Our overall power like literally didn't change. We had both our accounts up, one in the test environment, one in our normal environment. They didn't change, but we did notice our higher guardians were slightly weaker. And when I say that, was like 100, maybe 200 power. It's not like 1,000 power. It wasn't too crazy. But then some of our lower ones are a little bit higher. So it all evened out in the end. I just want to make sure, because again, I feel like the Discord and everything blew up about that today because they misunderstood this 20%.
Yeah.
It's not really 20%.
It's not.
Yeah. And to Dan's point, so I was looking at my power level when we were in the test environment was exactly the same as what my power level was in the live game. But I could go in and I could see the difference in power on the individual guardians. I could see but overall power level amongst my entire roster remained the same, which was so again, I don't think we're going to see. I think it's going to be okay. And I mean, when it comes down to it, I think everything is going to be okay. Also, Sirius brought something up as well, because Sirius asked about the potions. Did we use trait potions? Yes, we used trait potions. And we did see a significant boost in power level when you apply a potion that is not specific to your trait versus when you do apply a potion specific to your trait. You do get more of a bonus if there's a trait match there, obviously, but you can still use potions that don't match your trait and still get a bonus. But definitely you want to match traits up as much as possible so you can get as much of a power boost as you can. But with taking out minions, especially when we got to the more difficult nodes up around tier 12 and 13 for us, taking out the minions, significant power decrease. Making sure that we're using our potions, significant power increase. Making sure you use the recommended and suggested traits per guardian slot. Again, significant power increase there. And then if you haven't seen, and guess Dan, I don't know if you've seen this yet either, but if you haven't seen, I did ask, is there a point along the tiers, are both traits going to be required for each guardian slot? And the answer is yes. Danny mentioned they thought it was around tier 19, and again, that could change by the time it gets in game, but around tier 19, both of those traits are going to be required. So again, the wider your roster, the more successful you're going to be with this. And also, it does swap. I mentioned this before everybody joined, but when you go from one Rift Raid to the next, those traits they do have, there's an opportunity for those traits to change, as well as the Sentinels.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So
throughout that interview, we found that out as well.
Question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I asked that question too, inside of Discord right after a Rift Raid, and I asked that, and they said, yes, the idea is they're going to have like 20, and right, that's a generic number. It could be more, it could be less, but the idea is they're going to have like 20 Sentinels that'll rotate in and out. But the other side of that is like where we saw Gaston, and I can't remember if he was leader or what he was, but whatever he was based around may be different the next time. So so when we saw him, it was Gaston, it was leader, but next time it could be tall, right? It could be just one of his other traits that they're basing the Sentinel on. So it isn't even going to be like, hey, we know how to take down Gaston. Whenever you see Gaston, it's this team, whatever. That can always change too. So I love that aspect of it. Yeah. It's going to make it harder for us. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's going to make it a lot harder in the fact that we can't figure out like these are always the best teams. But I did like the fact, and you guys, I don't know if you want to talk more to this or Unstable, but I did like the fact that where we started, where the traits were bonuses and eventually they became required, they didn't switch. So it wasn't like every tier it was a whole different trait. It was the same traits, but then the requirements started shifting. So I don't know if one of you guys want to kind of embellish on that. That'd be a good one.
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
I kind of, as we were going through the Rift Raids, in the lower tiers, there was obviously more flexibility, but the parameters in where you kind of start within a very specific battle, let's say you're doing we'll call it the first minion on Maleficent's Sentinel, whatever it is, right? So if you're targeting that one and you go to that same minion every single time, the requirements for that battle stay within the same parameters. So it could start off as, you could have either Blade Wielder or Fortune Seeker, right? And then later on it switches to mandatorily you must have Blade Wielder, but you get a bonus if you have a Fortune Seeker also. And then later on it can switch again to being like Blade Wielder is restricted. Now you must have a Fortune Seeker. So it gives you like this, like it stayed always within the same parameter of those 2 or 3, whether it's that or traits or roles. It didn't matter. We saw both traits and roles in those parts, but it was interesting because they still provided enough variety that as you go through, you're going to clearly notice at certain points, wait, I used this team on this node 25 minutes ago. Oh, but we're now in tier whatever, 13, 16, 22, whatever. Now it's changed just enough where now I actually do have to use a different team. So it was very cool that it was, even though it was consistent because it kept it within the same bubble of using those certain traits or roles or terms or whatever, it did consistently change. And then get confirmation from the devs later on that, you know, let's say like the layout that we saw was the same layout essentially that you guys see in the previews in the Rift Raid diary.
Yeah.
Right. You see, you can see some of the images where you can see Gaston in the corner and Oogie Boogie on one of the sides. Like, we played that layout. Those layouts will continue to change. So it's not like every single week we're going up with the exact same configuration, the exact same teams. It's going to flex. You know, we might not see it in the first 2, maybe 3 raids because there's the seeding events, but it will continue to change. And I think a lot of people are also going to freak out the first 2 weeks of Rift Raids because the seeding event, they're not going to know what to do. And then their first battle, if you will, in their division, they'll realize how good or bad they're actually doing. And then everybody kind of levels out by that third, like, okay, we've got our grounding. We know where we're starting now. This worked. We have a better idea of, you know, who can battle at what time even. That's going to help us. Like, everybody's gonna have to take a breather because all of us were freaking out, but different groups of people were freaking out for different reasons. Many people in the KCP were looking at the comments going on in the feedback channel and were going, oh my God, guys, no, you're not understanding. So, and then in the feedback channel, it was like, you know, people with pitchforks and fires, bonfires, and the sky is falling and everything is over. And how do I get 6 months of refunds back? And my God, I'm so glad I did not put a video out on this and I saved everything for tonight because a lot of it needs to be addressed. I'm serious. I got DMs today. Hey, why didn't you put out a video today about the dev diary? First off, I haven't really done too many of those. And secondly, I literally saved everything to be able to talk here with you tonight about this. But then seeing how people were reacting, it kind of like honed the conversation that certain pieces of information need to be known. So looking back at the notes, you know, from what we did, because we noticed those power changes. And I made note of a couple of them. Okay. So I'm going to give you a perfect example from where to where, low end to high end, how traits and how power was affected. Okay. In my current roster, my level 30 4-star Mulan, which I did use and I did test in the raid, is sitting at a power of 1178. Milestone wise, so rank up and everything, you know, you're looking at only tier 3. I have barely anything into her whatsoever. She is through rank 4. In the other version, it was 1144. It was literally only a difference of 34 power. And now that's on the lower end. So going all the way the other direction, looking at the higher end, remember, you're dealing with that much of a difference. On the higher end, my Mr. Incredible. People are always freaking about Mr. Incredible. He's their #1 damage dealer, and they're worried what's going to happen to my big guys now. Wow. Breathe, okay? My Mr. Incredible is a level 60, rank 7, Astral 1 Mr. Incredible, okay? His power in my roster at this exact moment is 3207, so 3200. His power in the Rift Raid was 2928. So he didn't even drop 10% of his power, less than, in this adjustment. And now knowing what we now know about doing the maths and my projections, as we talked about earlier, you're going to need to have a certain tier of character and a certain quality of character to get up to take down potentially top tier sentinels, but only if you take down every single minion would my Mr. Incredible have a chance at going up against that top tier. And I don't even know if I can take down the minions. So it's the full balance of understanding that you're going to, in the mid levels, as you're getting used to the raid, you might be able to skip a couple of minion battles and you might become disheartened because you took down the sentinel early. But as you continue to climb and climb and climb, you realize the value of taking those minions down. And now your strategy completely changes. We were noticing it in the second half. We were just like, oh, okay. I'm going to take the left one here on the Maleficent node. All right, I'm heading directly to Snow. I want to see what happens this time. Okay, you failed. Yep, got it. Like, it was all of a sudden we felt the difference and the need to go to do the minions. And that's where the strategy for all of these clubs is going to come to be, and how you use energy effectively. Do you do it by taking down a minion, or do you do it by attempting to take down a sentinel early? Is it worth using your energy?
Right.
So it's going to be very, very cool.
Yeah, and I want to talk about, just for a second, I want you to talk about this a little bit, unstable, but the energy. So I got a bunch before we rated over, a lot of questions around energy, how you get your supplies, all of that kind of stuff. I know we've asked a bunch of questions, but I know you ask a lot of questions too in the devs, but do you want to explain a little bit about the supplies, how those work, and what these guys can kind of expect?
Yeah, so first, really quick, just to recognize Gen 580, thanks so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Thanks for the support. So when we talk about energy, so it's refreshing every 8 hours. And one thing that we're finding also is as you climb the different tiers, you're going to get more energy. You're going to get more potions that you can use. So that's one thing. That's one key thing as well. I think what I really want to do too, as we kind of go through this, our experiences and stuff here, is throw out some tips. And I think one thing that one tip that I thought was pretty good, Guest brought this up as we were walking through and playing the different tiers, is you may want to hold on to grabbing your energy until you go up a tier or two, just to maximize how much energy you get. But also, when we're able to launch. Now, Guest and Dan, you guys are going to have to keep me honest here, because we were talking about this. When the timer reduces, you want to claim right at the very last moment that timer is about to expire.
Right after you get it. Right after it expires.
So it goes all the way down, then you claim it, and then it's going to expire, and then you're going to get that full 8 hours. Otherwise, because that timer is a full 8 hours. So if you wait, I mean, you could potentially wait 10, almost 16 hours if you time it wrong, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple pieces in here, and it's something important to note is when the Rift Raid starts, is you're going to get your very first pack of your supplies, which includes energy and some random potions. Now, these potions may or may not have the certain traits you want, but they're just randomized each time. So once you pick that up, it starts the next 8 hours. So keep that in mind, because if your raid, like especially time zones, right? If your raid starts at 2 a.m. and you don't pick up your pack until 6 a.m. when you wake up, you've lost 4 hours. Because the timer doesn't start until you pick up the very first pack. Then what happens is every 8 hours from that point, you're going to get a supply that you can click to pick up. And as soon as you do that, it starts your 8 hours. Now, this was the question I think a couple of people were asking in chat too, is, well, what happens? Like, did you spend a lot of money? Did you buy energy? This is 1000% different than dungeons, because whenever you click that button to get the extra energy to speed up your timer, so claim it now rather than waiting the 4 hours, it starts another 8 hour period from that moment of claim. So what you really want to do is, as soon as you get that supplies, and again, I would say, the tip, if you're going to spend, wait till the last day or somewhere around in there. I know, Guest, you have some tips around this too, but wait till that last day, or when you think you're towards the higher end of that day's tiers, pick up your supplies and then buy immediately after you pick that up, because it's going to set it to 8 hours. Then you could buy all 5 if you want, or buy 1, and then it's going to restart at 8 hours. But if you're waiting like 2 hours and then clicking it, you're just going to keep pushing your free energy way out and it's not going to be good for you. So there's some tips and tricks around that of being efficient that are going to be key when going through this. And every day you're going to be able to do this 5 times, so it's not unlimited. It's only 5 times a day, so you got to keep that in mind. And I know, Guess, when we were talking, you mentioned you thought there was some efficiencies around when to buy and some stuff like that. While we were talking, it may have lined up to that, but you may have some other ideas.
Well, when it comes to the efficiencies of how to buy and when to buy, the most important thing to understand about it is you have to know what your alliance's goal within that day is. So, for example, if you're an alliance that decides that you're going to attempt to do tier 8 through 11, right? Your goal is you want to try to do tier 8 through 11 consistently, go straight up through all 4 of them over the course of 3 days, right? That is your goal. You have X amount of battles to do it. You want to scale. Now, you can redo Battles, again, from a defeated battle. If you've already taken down a sentinel, you've already taken down one of the minions, or even the boss battles, you can redo them for experience points. You won't progress further into the raid, into the Rift Raid technically, but you can redo battles, right? Your strategy then has to become thinking about how to use your energy when you're going to get the most of it. Because if you know you're about to go from, let's say, tier 10 to 11, and you're halfway there, it's better to wait, let your timer reduce, because as your timer reduces, the cost reduces. It prorates down. So the 8 hours, let's say, I'm making up a number, this is not costs, people. Let's say it's 100, right? And it's definitely not, but let's say 100 to make your life easier for math, because math is hard for a lot of people. So if you're going 8 hours down and it's been 4 hours, if you hit that, then it's only going to cost you 50 instead of the full 100. So that timing strategy will become very important to know. Maybe I should wait. You've got attempts ready to go yet? Okay, I'm still going down on my timer. I don't want to claim my supplies early, even though I know I can take down the next node, the next sentinel in the first shot, because I've got the team to do it. I've got the potions to do it. You guys go ahead. I'm going to wait another hour. You guys take down a couple of extra minions, and then I'll claim it, because now you've also saved orbs. So there's going to be this whole extra strategy piece when it comes to the communication and who's going when to do what, because it's literally going to save you money. And whether you're doing tier 30 over and over and over and over again, which I really don't see happening too much, or you're someone who's just trying to, place it, and maybe you got a couple new members in your alliance in the past month, and now, okay, maybe we're scaling a little higher and you're figuring out your way. It's going to feel different every single time. This will not be stagnant. That was one of the best things that I got out of that, from seeing how the energy consumption is used, and then thinking about the strategies with the communication that's going to have to happen to make sure that we're not unnecessarily spending our orbs to get energy, if we're going to spend any orbs whatsoever.
Right. Yep. And so let's talk about starting the raid. So there's been some confusion as far as the whole 3 days for a 4-day raid. Just a point of clarification for everybody too. As soon as you start that raid, you can go in and start raiding. You can claim your first pack. You can go in there and you can start raiding right away. That's when your 3-day timer starts. My suggestion is, if you can, as early as you can start it on that first day, then I would go for it. But the latest, if you want the full 3 days, the latest would be the end of the third day, the end of the first day, so that you can get that full 72 hour timer there. You can theoretically, you could start the raid with 30 minutes left on the very last day. Then you got 30 minutes to raid, and you're good. So, but it's just that timer. It's that 72 hour timer within that 4-day limit. So I know that there were some questions around that and how that starts. Do you really have to wait, the first 24 hours to just collect stuff until you can really start raiding? But no, as soon as you initiate Rift Raids, you can go ahead and you can jump right into it.
Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure that you're hitting that on the first day, sometime within that first day period, or every minute, every hour that you wait into day 2, you're cutting into your 3-day period. So I love this approach, though, because it allows, again, we know we have clubs all over the world. It allows somebody to start, right when it goes live at 2 p.m. that day. Again, I'm Eastern, so I'm talking Eastern time, or, waiting to 2 in the morning because that's their 12 o'clock or something like that, right? So you got 24 hours.
Yep.
So think of it like this, because again, we have a large community that also comes from Disney Sorcerer's Arena, right? When you're doing raids, and I'm going to use this as a perfect parallel. When you're doing raids in DSA, right? Especially if you're in a higher tier club, the main goal is you don't want to sit on your tickets. It's just launch the raid as soon as it happens, whether for you it's 2 in the afternoon or 2 in the morning. It doesn't matter. It's go time. This allows alliances. Let's say you're a French alliance. You're not going to be penalized because you're in France, and we've seen this happen in a lot of different games, in a lot of different game modes, where timing internationally or trying to create an alliance with international members becomes an issue because of the timing of how it goes. You have control. You have a 24-hour window to decide, hey, this is when we're going to start this raid. My international members, that means when you wake up, you're probably going to end up right around this area in the raid. Go. So it'll give a lot of alliances the flexibility to raid as they want, not as they have to, which is a big win. Big win.
Yeah, and I saw the question just real quick as far as does the energy stack? I saw the unstable answer that too, but just to make it clear, yes, it does stack. So let's say it does start for 2 a.m. for you. You can log in, you can grab the energy, start your 8-hour timer, go back to sleep, wake up, at 10 or whatever, hit it again. Do whatever you need to do, and then you can use that energy later in the afternoon. As long as you're hitting it and grabbing that supplies, it's going to increase your timer. It stacks. I did get confirmed today there is no cap. So literally you could just grab energy the entire raid and then wait till the last day. I mean, don't do that for your alliance, but I'm just saying you could wait till the last day and just use all your energy wherever you're at in the tier. The last caveat is it doesn't carry over though.
Yeah. Let me clarify something there really quick too, because Dan and I answered that 2 different ways. If you miss that 8-hour timer, then basically you're going to claim that, and your 8-hour timer is going to restart. So if after 8 hours you don't claim that for another 4 or 5 hours, you're losing 4 or 5 hours because it's going to reset that timer. So just think of it this way: you have 4 opportunities to claim your energy and your potions throughout the day. 3 opportunities, right? 8 times 3 is 24.
Yeah, 3.
There's the whole mathing thing. So 3 opportunities to gain within a single day. If you only claim it, if you miss it, then you're going to only claim twice within that 24-hour period, and then it rolls on over into the next day. So hopefully that makes sense. You can't. If you wait 9 hours, you can't claim the previous 8 hours and then the current 8 hours, if that makes sense. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully I didn't confuse it even more.
No, you confused me on that one a little bit. No, so to your point though, like if it's 12 o'clock, we'll make it, again, simple math. 12 p.m. is when you're going to hit that supplies. If you pick it up at 12, the timer starts. It'll be there at 8. If you don't log in until 2, you're still going to see that supply pack from 12 sitting there. And as soon as you pick it up at 2 o'clock, you start your 8 hours. So 10 o'clock would be your next one. So to your point, if you want to be the most efficient and optimal, you're logging in every 8 hours and you're grabbing the energy, whether you're going to use it right then or not. You're at least grabbing it to keep that timer rolling. Or eventually at the end of this raid, you're essentially going to miss out on a whole supply pack is what it's going to come down to. But then it does not carry, it carries over from day to day, but it does not carry over from raid to raid. So once you get to the end of the raid, all unused energy goes away, just like dungeons, as well as those potions. Those potions are going away too. And I do want to talk a little bit, because I'm curious with you guys. You mentioned it earlier, unstable with the potions as we talk about supply packs. So I use the potions once. In one battle, I was like, I'm going to use all these potions. I'm going to boost up my power, see what it does. I mean, the power number went up. I guess I could tell a difference. I don't really know. Half the time I'm punching way up above my numbers anyway, so I feel like they're just hard in general. But I either forgot to use them or I just didn't bother using them for a lot of the other ones. But I'm curious from you two guys, how often did you use them? Do you think you could tell a difference when you were in those battles? I don't know if you tried before without them and then tried with them or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I used them almost all the time. I did do a test on 0 potions versus some potions. I also did some potions on one guardian and not others. And I did. If you watch the numbers above your guardian, you'll see your power level, and you'll see a pretty significant jump. If the potion matches your trait, so if it's a high tech potion on a high tech guardian, then you're going to get a pretty significant boost. But if you have a high tech potion on a non high tech guardian, you're still going to get a boost, but just not as much. So I mean that's what I saw. What did you see there, Guest?
I saw the same. Through my testing, there were a couple of different versions. Okay, so I did a couple of tests where I hit the same node 3 times. I did it no potion, and I was punching up. It was around like 10k. I did the same node again. Did it with just whatever I had. Threw it on there, minus the ones that were synergetic, because I was using, I think it was Ariel, Hero, and somebody else. So I was like, I have a good team here. I'm like, this is the chance to do that.
Yep.
Did it again, and then did the super synergetic, and watching where that dial goes, I did feel 100% the difference between being in the green zone and being in the red zone. If you look at the little slider bar, like you're talking about, power. And many clubs are going to say, let me reword. Not many clubs. Many of the clubs in the top spenders category may not necessarily feel this if they're trying to go for the super top end. They might just throw it on there as a convenience.
Right.
However, the other 95% of the community who is trying to punch up to a higher tier as high as possible, those are going to make huge differences. It's like someone who knows how to use Frank Wolf versus someone who doesn't know how to use Frank Wolf. The skill that becomes involved about strategizing your potions, when to use them, when not to use them, just like, how do you use Frank Wolf effectively versus on auto? It's going to take a little bit of practice for people to understand their own strategies for their roster when they say, okay, well, I've got a load of blade wielders that are hard hitting, melee weapons. I should not use these on the first couple of days. Let me save these for the later days because it's going to carry to day number 3. Then I'll put it on my top tier Guardians and I can now compete in this top tier piece versus, oh God, we can't get through this last node and I'm stuck at tier 11. Does anybody have a team that can take down blah, 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 blah? All right, well, if I use my potions, I can. So that's what I'm talking about when the communication side comes to be, where people are going to have to communicate going, I can't take this down. Here's the Rex. Blah, 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 blah. What do you guys have?
Right.
Can somebody take this down? Because then I can take down the Sentinel, or then we can start attacking the Titan or move up a tier or whatever. So I can't stress enough how obvious it was also, because I see the conversation happening a little bit in the chat earlier, that in the beginning, yes, it was a straight up, all of us were super excited, free for all. We were just like kids at Disneyland with no parents, just run down Main Street, just go.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's exactly what it was. We were all just like, I'm going to hit this. And then we just started attacking random crap. As we got a little bit later on, then all of us started calling towers, calling like, I got minion, I got snow, I'm harder here, I'm going to go here. Exactly. And it was clear that all of a sudden we needed to start talking more and more to each other. And we only got a taste of it, of realizing, there is going to have to be strategy here, even though there, like you said, for DefaultDan, there was a node in the very end where he was punching up like 13K and he still did well. But that's not going to be the case for everybody. Some people might be able to do that if they have a certain team and they happen to have the right requirements and they happen to have the right potions and they happen to be very skilled at the characters. Like that brew combo will come to be, and then they'll be able to progress. So it's going, I cannot wait for this to start because I want people to see and experience that they have no fucking clue what they're talking about. Like I say in DefaultDan stream, I get one of those, and I'll be respectful to you the same way as a gamer. I get one because you don't. Don't. If you haven't played it, you have no idea.
Yeah.
And everyone who has all pretty much are saying the same thing. That you guys are freaking out about the power. You have no idea what you're walking into. You're going to need 2 or 3 raids to figure out your rhythm. Then tell me what your feedback is. Because we were giving feedback in a 2-hour window of testing. Really, like we had 2 hours to experience it, and we gave a lot of feedback, and all of us, and we all asked a lot of questions about this and that, and is this going to change? How does this work? Here's our feedback. I can't see this part in the screen. Blah blah blah. Like everything, we were going on for days about it. And I want you to know that the devs were also very active and very receptive and very.
They were in there playing with us.
Good about explaining to us. Yeah, they were exactly. They were in our fake alliance playing with us, and they took our feedback very seriously. And they listened. And I know that they listened because it's in the dev diary. If you look at the very bottom of it, the known issues, more than half of those, that was us.
100%. Well,
and go ahead, Unstable.
Pop that up there. I'm gonna pop that up there. I think it's worth showing. Go ahead.
And it's one, as we were looking at that, I mean, that's the thing. Like, so me and Guest come from DSA. I know Unstable, you played for a while, but one of the big things over there, right, is, and you mentioned it earlier, Guest, with the raids. Like, we're in we're in Kamundra, which is still one of the top clubs, but it's not the top club. We're like number 8 or something like that for a long time, 8 or 9. But we hold like all the world records for raids over there. And now these are not the exact same raids or anything, but the thing is, we don't have all the Krakens in our club, but we hold those world records because of communication, strategy, and all of that. And this is going to be the same thing. This is not a mode where you can just buy unlimited refreshes. It's not a mode where you're going to be able to just like force your level 90 characters through there, right? Throw in these 4 different characters. It's going to be skill. It's going to be tactics. It's going to be strategy. And I kind of want to segue that in for you, Unstable. Is one of the big things we talked about was using your energy effectively. So we hinted at it earlier, but when we were going in, like, we weren't doing that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, top levels are going to have to do that.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly where I was going to go. So I want to go into that and the pitfalls and the wasted energy that we did really early on, because I'd really like to talk about that a little bit, and then kind of, and then let's move on into relics. But one thing, the reason why we keep touting communication and using Discord or even using in-game chat to the best that it can be used is because when we first went in, like Guest was saying, it was like a kid in the candy store or our first day in Disneyland. We were running down Main Street or whatever. We just did a whole bunch of shit and doing whatever the hell we wanted. But there were times where we were fighting a sentinel, but somebody else was fighting a sentinel, and they defeated the sentinel before we defeated the sentinel, and then we were into the next tier, and we weren't even done with the sentinel yet. So that energy, granted, not totally wasted, because you're still getting the points, but now because of that, because there was no communication really early on, now we have less energy to use for that next tier. And the higher the tiers go, the more points you get, the more rewards you get. So you really want to make sure that you use your energy effectively. You want to make sure that you communicate well within your team, and just kind of plan all of that out, because it was kind of frustrating when we first went in there, but it's good that we went through that and experienced that so that we knew going in, and something that we could talk about too. So Dan, I guess, I don't know if you want to talk about kind of your feelings around that as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think that was the one thing that we were having fun when we started, but then as you went through that, you started realizing, like, okay, one, you're either wasting energy because you're trying to punch up and it's not working, or it's your point. There was several times I would look and it does show you on the map. If you look at a sentinel, there's like a little shield above there. You can see somebody's in there. Now you have to click in and then go to a different area, which is some of our feedback, to be able to see who actually is in there. But again, if you are on, voice or in Discord saying like, all right, I'm going to attack Oogie, it's going to help you guys out, to understand like, okay, they want Oogie, let me go after Snow or someone else. But yeah, I mean, I think the other one is the Rift Raid are the gatekeepers. I want to say Rift Raid bosses, but the gatekeepers. So it was asked in chat, who are they? They are the boss. So once you take down all sentinels, the middle node essentially opens up, which is the boss of the tier. When you beat them, you move to the next tier. But that's the other part, is everybody's so excited to go after the gatekeeper, and you can only do 10% to it, so you can't solo them. They've fixed that, which I'm pretty excited about. You can hit it multiple times. So there's a couple gatekeepers that I attacked like 2 or 3 different times. So I was taking 20% or 30% off his health. But I know there's several times I opened up, they're at 50% health. There's 10 people in there attacking them. Like that's 5 wasted attacks that's going on, and 100%. That you need for later. So yeah, those are the things to keep in mind, because especially in your alliance, because there's leaderboards internally and bragging rights, and I'm bad about this because I want to be at the top of the leaderboard the whole time.
I'm just gonna say it. You're horrible.
Oh my god, you were out for blood.
You were like,
I want that number 1 spot. Damn it! I'm using all the energy, all the fake orbs I have, because like everything. You were like, I'm getting number 1. Damn it!
I was trying. I was trying. Up until the last minute with Gaza.
Oh, you were trying. Yeah, you were.
You were like within a couple hundred points of first.
Yeah.
It was really, you guys were really close. But like, folks, I'm not even kidding you. There'd be like 20% left in the gatekeeper. 5 people would be attacking. He'd be like, I got this. Like, he would straight up go for the battle. Like, And we're just
I'd
sitting
get
there
it
going,
though. I'd get it though. Oh man.
I know.
So it's all about the speed.
Yeah. Well, that kind of segues also into a conversation piece because I know we're each going to have different YouTube content about this.
Yep.
So I'm going to summarize it into a mini version of that for right here. For each of you, give me one MVP Guardian that you notice or think will be absolutely fantastic in the raids.
All right, I get to go first.
Play testing it.
I get to go first.
I know you get to because
well,
yours, yes, is obvious.
You guys are my guests, so you can go first. So
yeah, I want to go first because I don't want you to steal my MVP.
You're already stealing mine. I can tell.
Zerg, man,
you suck.
Zerg was the MVP of the Rift raids. Like literally every node I got to, if there was a node that didn't have a requirement or was villainous, he went in there.
Yep.
And
yeah,
the fact that you could just stand back, blow people away, the fast attacks, Zerg was key to me, especially against Rift, the Gatekeepers. I'm gonna keep saying Rift raid Guardians, but the Gatekeepers. Just hands down, I love Zerg. That was my MVP. So we'll see. We'll see when the traits start moving around and when they start getting required where he gets locked out of. But if I can use Zerg, Zerg is who I'm using.
And I know who Guest is picking. Guest, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about mine on my stream, and I broke my rule specifically for Oogie Boogie because of how good he did in the raid. That special will get all of my universal signets 1,000. That signature will get all of my signets 1,000%. That stun, that power, I have put all of my books into him. He is up to 79 now, milestone 16, 15, 16, nice. Something like that now. Like
very cool.
Only reason I didn't do 80 is because I'm going to use him so much. He's going to gain his own levels, which will buy me time until I can rank him up. So, which is another feedback piece for people. Stop bringing them up to the even number 0. Always stop at the 9 until you're ready. But oh my God, was he good?
Yeah,
he was so good. Especially if I put him with Scrooge, forget it. It was just stupid.
Yeah,
it was just stupid how important it was to get that AOE bug out there. And those bugs do great damage, and then they have a great chance to stun. Like it's became absolutely critical in many of this, especially in the minion nodes where you go up against more of the Borns. Hardcore, yes, 1,000%. Keep an eye on Oogie Boogie.
Yeah, and I know Spell. I know Spell's super happy about that. Spell's been putting into this forever.
Of course she is.
And that was between that and Mickey. That's what her 2 leads were on pretty much every time she was going in there. But I will also add just real quick with Oogie, he added a couple traits. So we'll see tomorrow when patch comes out what's official with the traits and everything, because what we saw may not be finals around their traits, but Oogie added a couple traits which also really helped him be viable in many of these battles.
Yep, and for me, my MVP, and Toxic already called it. I would have said Zerg, but since it was stolen, it's Bob. Y'all know me. I like Bob. Mr. Incredible is fantastic.
Oh yeah,
I love the dude. I have him at an Astral 1, level 90, so he was killing it. Him and Zerg, man, they're dangerous. They're a dangerous pair, but also to tag on to what Dan said as well, Mickey was key for me too in a lot. I mean, the damage shield that goes up, his stun that goes up, there is so much utility for him in there. I'm actually excited. I know that Guess has been talking about Violet more and more as well, and I think Violet's going to do very well. I was doing just the other day, I did a stream where I paired up Bob and Violet and nonstop armor all day long, all day long. So I think she's going to be pretty good there as well. So
1,000% Violet was sick to watch. And in the tiers that we were in, I wasn't feeling yet the underscore damage. Like there wasn't a lot of shot going down, which is going underneath the armor and giving like dangerous amounts of damage to the health bar. Like the amount of shield she was putting back out there, and then obviously getting the resist out onto everybody else with this, it was just like anytime I put her in, no matter what my punch up was, auto, and she was killing it. Now in the later nodes, later tiers, I can't wait to see how she does, because she is quickly shooting up the importance level, especially given, was it 5 traits? 5 traits, 6 traits, something like that. Like it's just it's crazy high. Now, this is something to note too. Speaking of the traits, just real quick, when we tested, all of the Guardians were confirmed and in-game had between 4 and 6 traits. In the recent dev diary, they just said it was between 3 and 5. So I'm curious to see from what we saw versus what actually goes live, what they may have potentially done, added, removed, tweaked, changed since even just then, because that can even change viabilities for many characters too. I'm just glad that everybody got some kind of love. So there's at least a minimum of 3 for everyone.
Yeah, and I think the way I read that, and I may be wrong on that, but the way I read it was it's 3 to 5 plus their size. So you'll see the 4 because of the size that everybody just has, basically. But which again, kind of wrapping this whole thing up with traits and things like that. So Guest was talking about there being bonuses and requires and stuff. It's not just the traits you're thinking about, blade wielder, seafaring, whatever. It's also the height, because they had tall and short and things like that. And it's the role. Yeah, and it's the role because there was one that was melee. It was like blade wielder and melee, so of course I used aerial. But like, they're looking at all the different aspects of a guardian, which I find really, really awesome, because now it isn't just here's your 8 you need to worry about. It's like, hey, do you have a tall royalty? Do you have Jack Skelly or something like that to put in there, or goofball royalty, or and I know that one I was using Symbol, and so like it's really cool to look at that when you get to plug and play.
I do want to say one thing, because there's a perfect example built in what you said. So like the melee one that had blade wielder, right? In earlier nodes, this is what I was talking about earlier, folks, that earlier nodes, you may have seen that, yes, okay, if you know your blade wielder faction, trait, it's all melees, and then there's blue for some reason. So later on, that node has a very likely chance that blade wielders are mandatory, but melees are restricted. So you literally only would have to potentially use blue in the current configuration.
Right,
so
and I believe that they're bringing
can
in
happen with how the traits work.
Yeah, and I think they're bringing in like a ranged blade wielder, because they mentioned in the notes too, right? They're looking at all these combos when we think about traits. They're looking at all these combos and making sure that you're not just limited to one. You at least have 1 or 2, and they're different roles, so that you're not
written down.
Having in
I may have it written down still.
So let me hit 2 things, and then let's go on to Relics really quick. I think we've given quite a bit of information on Rift Raids and have talked about a few tips. Just a couple more things that I want to say, and then circle back really quick, Dan and Guest, on any other tips that you might think of as well. But one of my questions too was to Mark and to Danny was with diamonds, with all these diamonds, gems and everything going into away from dungeons into Rift Raids. What about T4 diamonds? T4 diamonds, we only have them in 2 locations. We have them in the Laurel store, and we have them in the event store, and that's it. We did have Crystal Convergence. That's come around a couple times, so we did have our opportunity to farm out of there. One thing they did mention is that they seem to be open to specific event type Rift Raid events that could incorporate something like that, but really what they're looking for is feedback from all of you. So one thing that I would highly suggest, again, please try and avoid the knee-jerk reaction, because when you see things and you look at percentages and stuff, sometimes they could be askew a little bit. When you actually get in there, it's not that bad. And especially when you take into account relics that are coming into play, that's going to add a significant power boost, as well as potions and taking out minions. There is a lot of opportunity there to bring down the power level of the Sentinel so that you can attack. So with that, just kind of a couple tips that I have really quick when it comes to that is don't look at Rift Raids as you have to have a team or 2 for every single Sentinel. If you're newer to the game, focus on one Sentinel. Look at that Sentinel, see what they have as far as traits and what's required, because when you look at it also, when you look at the traits required for each Guardian slot, the left trait is the one that will eventually become required. So take a look at that one first, because once you get higher, that'll be your required one. So I would suggest basing your team off of that left trait first before we get to the eventual tier 19 or whatever, where both traits are going to be required. So something to keep in mind there. Also know that when you take a look at your sentinels, the fewer the minions, the lower the power level of that sentinel. So you'll have some sentinels that have 2 or 3, but then you have Scrooge that has 6. So you know Scrooge is just crazy with the power level. Like I said, at tier 13, he was around 47k with 6 full minions around him. So definitely when you're communicating with your alliance, focus on where your strengths are. And if you need to, focus on taking those minions down first, because they do, like Guest was talking about earlier, they take a significant hit. They drop the power level of that Sentinel quite a bit, actually. So it's definitely worthwhile. Plus, you get points for it. So those are a few quick tips that I have from the experience that we've had so far in the playtest. Dan and Guest, do you have anything additional that you want to talk about as far as tips there before we move on into Relics?
Got anything, Guest?
I think the biggest thing to take out of just that whole 2-hour chaos, because that's what it was. Like, I don't know about you, but after, and Owlier, you can confirm this as well. After the Rift raids, I needed a cigarette, and I don't smoke. Like, it was just like, it was 2 hours.
I needed a beer.
Chaos, information over. Oh, that was there too. Like, information overload, because we're cramming in basically at least 2 days worth of raid into 2 hours. And people are going to see the Rift raids this week, and they're going to look at it, and alliance leaders are going to look at it, and they're going to go, oh, you know what? Just have fun, guys. Okay. And the first one, the first day, and this is my advice, honestly, to every alliance out there. Day 1 of this seeding event, please don't give a crap.
Yep.
Literally,
just do it.
Don't give a crap. Just do it. Go click things, go test around, go read things. Don't be inefficient. Waste orbs. Do nothing, just reading and clicking and watching and communicating and taking screenshots and put it as your phone background. Do all of that fun stuff on day 1, because that's the time to do it. Okay. Yeah. As you get to day 2, you'll kind of maybe figure out a little bit of okay, this is probably what we'll do in the future. Maybe I'll do 1 or 2 of these like this, you know, and you'll, by the end of the raid, you'll have a better idea. You'll have a better groove, whatever it may be. Yeah. Please take your time and enjoy at least the first day just to absorb all of the information, because you know nothing. The community, I'm sorry, you don't. And I'll be the rude one to say it straight to your face, at least through this piece of technology. You have no idea what you're talking about. You have to get in there. You have to play it. You have to click things. You have to use your roster. You have to see your power changes. You have to experience it. So take as much of that information in within this first raid. The second raid, try to figure out what your strategy is then. Get ready for that second raid, knowing, okay, we did very well here. That kind of hurt a little bit more. Take a look at my roster. Maybe I'm going to build up another ranged guardian, whatever. Just ease your way into the second raid. Try a strategy out. And then third raid, you'll probably be like, okay, this is what we're doing. So please take Thursday with a grain of salt. Be nice to your alliance. And alliance leaders, please, just let them have fun. It's supposed to be a game, and we very often forget that in this community. And I'm noticing it more and more, because the ones that forget it are the ones that are the loudest. And those are the people that shouldn't be the loudest. So the ones that need to be the loudest are the ones that need to be having fun with the game on day 1 in this game mode. So
take time to figure out your strengths.
Everybody, go click things. Just go click things.
I would say, you know, from my side, I think there's two big ones. One that we've been saying the whole time is communication, right? To Guest's point, the first day is gonna be crazy. Everybody's gonna want to get in there and just, you know, attack and do and see and experience it. But I would say, you know, as you're going through there, communication is gonna be key. You're eventually gonna hit a spot where you're gonna have to. So, you know, if that's what your alliance wants to do, whether it's in game you're communicating or a Discord, right? set up a channel, have some conversations, give feedback to one another, say what your experience, like, hey, I tried snow, didn't work out, this is what I used, whatever. But in connection with that, my biggest thing is expectations. So my biggest thing when it comes to any of this modes are set your expectations and know your expectations. This is what I think it gets under my skin the most when I look in the Discord and people are complaining that my free to play stuff doesn't equate to the person that spent 10 grand on this game already. And I'm telling you guys, that may be a shocker. There's people that have spent 10 grand on this game already. Yeah. It happens in mobile games. Yep. And beyond that. But I'm just saying, like, oh yeah. So that's where when you look at this, like, I think it's setting expectations, because if you're a casual club, I'm not going to expect you to go into Discord and create your own channel and do all your stuff. If you're a competitive club, then you're probably going to have an alliance leader that says, make sure you're in Discord and make sure you're in this channel, and this is where we're calling our shots, right? Yeah. But to Guest's point, it is the first one. So alliance leaders, make sure your expectations are set at the right level, because day one, people will attack something without saying it. Yeah. You're going to have 4 people attacking the same sentinel. It's going to happen until everybody gets used to it. But it's one of those things. Make sure your expectations are set, or you're going to get to the end of this and you're going to be like, we only made it to tier 9, or we only made it to tier 20, and I thought we were going to do to tier 30. Like, it's probably not going to happen. Just get those expectations and everybody will have fun.
You know, one thing I was remembering while you guys were talking as well is also remember that your alliance members, if you're on tier 5, they can still hit everything on tier 3 or tier 2 or tier 1. You may have some alliance members who can't battle at 5 or 6, so they can still contribute points and for themselves and for the alliance by doing a lesser tier, and it's still valuable. That those battles are still valuable. So don't think that they're not, or that they're not helping, because they are. Yep.
That's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah, it's true. Because I mean, you could be at a top tier, or top of what you think is your tier on the second day, and it's like, well, I can't hit up there, and then you happen to get your potions for the following day, and it's, oh, look, I have potions now that actually synergize with the team that you're doing on tier 6. Okay, I can actually do an attempt here. You know, like, so don't be afraid to hit in the wrong one.
Yep.
Wrong
100%.
tier.
All right, so Rift Raids. Let's move on into Relics. I know one of the questions that I asked during the interview was, now that T4 gems, and it's not just T4 gems, all of our gems are going to be in Rift Raids. So is it a 1-for-1 swap? What other kind of rewards and things are going to be changed in dungeons? Now, when I was going through the interview and talking with Danny and Mark, they had mentioned that there is no other changes. They're just doing a swap, 1-for-1 swap, relics for the T4 gems. Now, when you go through, when you take a look at the notes that came out today on 2.0, we do know that there's a change in the volume of motes and things that we're going to get, but the types of rewards that you get in dungeons don't change, other than the relics. So just kind of curious on your thoughts, Dan and Guest, on what do you think dungeons are going to be like now? Because I'm almost thinking like one of the first tips should be on day 1, go to your dungeons, get what relics you can so you can see what you can do to buff up your guardians before you even jump into Rift Raids. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah.
It's tough with the relics right now, just because we haven't, we don't know yet. We didn't get to play test. Yeah, we need to test them. We need to take a look at the, and see how it feels and how it experiences. Because yes, we're gonna get the update tomorrow. It's gonna have a relics dungeon on the update. You're gonna be able to go on in and start collecting relics immediately.
Do we know if
that is going to happen?
Is that happening tomorrow, or is that happening when Rift Raids launches on Thursday?
No, because dungeon starts tomorrow, so it's gonna go into effect tomorrow's dungeon, or at least that would be my expectation.
Okay, that's good to know. So
because they said they're no longer doing Moat Madness. Okay. Right? Yeah, they're no longer doing Moat Madness, so we're gonna have, two full reset days of dungeons to play dungeons, get some relics, kind of click a little bit and learn the relics, and for the spenders out there, there's a pack that was accidentally went live in the game, so there's going to be a pack.
I missed it.
We know at some point. If like it's
Well,
going to be able to have fun and woohoo. But
well, there was a couple too. There was also so there was that pack that was at the main, but if you scrolled over where we normally have like our books and our potions, there was also a relic pack over there. So it seems like there's going to be one that's constant, and then we may have these specialty packs as well.
Yeah.
Right. So the options are going to be out there to start seeing how, these work. And, we can read the notes as much as we can. We can look at the photos as much as we can. But, you might go through a dungeon, and this was bothering me that people aren't really truly talking or discussing this as much. We had it confirmed, and I think you both said it in your different pieces of video content today, that legendary pieces are going to drop on all tiers of dungeon. The percentages will change depending on the higher tier of dungeon. So anybody, like there will be people, just like there's people who pulled the 5-star Simba on day 1 with their crystals. It's going to happen that before anybody else who might be spending thousands in the game, they might not get a legendary piece. And then Joe Blow, who started their, DMV adventure 2 days ago, they could enter into their very first, very bottom end dungeon and get a legendary, relic. It's going to happen. So people need to not freak out about that either.
So is there an update on that? So when I was talking with Mark and Danny, they had mentioned, and I mentioned this in my video, that stats do not change. They change based on rarity, but they do not change from like 2 legendary rings are still going to have the same percent stat boosts, but traits could randomly generate.
Correct.
Okay.
That is my understanding as well. As let's again, easy math. 5% stat bonus is always 5% stat bonus on there. The trait will change, and then again, the idea is you want to find 4 of the legendaries, 1 of each, all of the same trait. That way you get the bonus from each piece plus the whole set bonus.
Right.
And that would be like your awesome.
If it is a epic or a legendary piece that has the listed attribute bonus.
Correct.
Tier the bottom ones, the common, the uncommon, and the rare, I think are the bottom 3 nomenclatures. Those will not have the attribute bonus potential in there.
Right.
However, the epics and the legendaries will. So you can't just have 4 common ranged pieces and now you're going to get an extra attribute bonus. It has to be one of them will say it on there in their epic or legendary status that if you happen to have all 4 of these, you're going to get an extra 30% for Fortune Seeker. You know, like you got to look for that, because I'm sorry, no one's saying it like that, and that was really frustrating because you have to be specific on that.
Yeah, I think I did that in the Relic Diary deep dive. I mentioned that where it needed to be, because you can see it in the picture, and then it's also only rare and above, which is the blue and above, you can upgrade. So the ones below rare don't have the dots or the diamonds or whatever to upgrade. So that does increase your stat bonus, and that's the only way to increase that stat bonus.
Right. You can basically polish the ring is the way to look at it in a way.
But it's not random. It's still the same percentage and still the same upgrade.
Does the uncommon not? I thought the uncommon had 2 diamonds underneath it to be upgraded.
Check
it
out
does. You scroll down.
So the green one does too. You probably need to go to the Relic deep dive.
The other one.
The dairy. The dairy.
You called it the dairy.
The dairy.
How long was it on there as the dip?
I think it's still that way. I don't know.
The dip
because I changed it.
Because I think you can upgrade all of them. You can upgrade common and uncommon. There's just the uncommon has 1 upgrade. I'm gonna double check.
Have it.
I'm gonna double check.
Yeah. I thought I only saw it on blue, but maybe I missed the green.
Here, let's see if this.
But you are correct. It's only the top 2 that have the traits. So that's what you're going to be aiming for, is the purple and the yellow.
Give me the green
as you go through.
Because I was
maybe I didn't.
I think you just saw the top of it.
There,
probably.
Got it. Right, those are the extras. Where's the regular relic full piece? That's a 4-star.
Where's the?
I was cutting all these pieces out.
Here's the upgrade conversation.
Yeah, I thought I read somewhere.
given by your
Yeah,
okay,
so
yeah, maybe you're. So it sounds like you're right there. Improve
Yeah,
the
it's just the
attribute
blue and
bonuses
above.
given by your rare, epic, and legendary relics. Yeah, because here's your uncommon right here, and there's no upgrade below it. Can you see my
Yeah,
screen?
that's your yeah, gray.
Okay.
The gray is your common. Oh yeah.
Yeah, your common. Yeah.
There you go.
So
I'm
the
seeing
gray
it
is your
now.
common, and the green is your uncommon. Your green is not included in
Yeah.
that.
So rare, epic, and legendary. That's a good point to make too, because I missed that. I thought you could do at least one on the.
But the question will be like, if you have blue, right? Like we're gonna have to figure out like how often are we really gonna see purple and yellow? But like if you have the blue ones, if you have the rare ones, do you even waste your resources upgrading them? Like because they don't have the trait status. I don't know. I mean, those are gonna be questions we figure out as we're going through.
I'm proactively, I'm going to say yes, because if you get a whole bunch of common pieces of crap and you have one rare that's there, go ahead and melt all of those down for ore and put another shiny star on your 3-star, if you will, your 3-star ring. Let's call it what it is. Your, and add a little extra stone to it. So that way you're upping up one specific character a little stronger. So
yeah,
I think you definitely do so. But the second you get something better, kick that to the curb or to another character. And I think we're probably never going to be wanting to equip common and uncommon and really try to only equip rare and higher and just melt everything else down to make everything else stronger. So that's my guess.
Yeah.
Is that the term we're going with, melting? Because I've heard crunching in other games. Is that what we're going to term that in this game? We're going to melt it down to ore.
I think
it says it in there. I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it says somewhere in there.
Oh, really? Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that'll be the stuff we have to look at is how often do we get these common that we can throw down? How much ore does it take to go up? So, because I worry about some of that stuff just because we've already seen some of the crunching with like gold as far as how much gold you need to do stuff. We've seen like Stardust at the beginning of the game seems to be like, oh, I'm getting Stardust. Oh, I'm getting orbs all the time. And then eventually you just like, oh yeah, I'm not leveling up anymore. I'm not getting all those free orbs everywhere. From campaign and things like that. So those are kind of the curiosities we'll see is, okay, do you invest or do you not? You know, for what level? I agree with you though. I don't think you really, I mean, you can't. It's only at rare plus, but I mean, most of that other stuff's just going to get melted down because I also think you're not equipping all of your guardians. You're equipping a couple, and the beauty of the system is you can move them at any time. No cost to move them.
Yeah.
So
which is awesome.
as you go into a battle.
And something with this too that I think is important. First off, their nomenclature they chose to use is called scrapping, not melting.
Okay.
That's in the Relics dev diary towards the bottom. Secondly, what might be interesting with this is in the Rift raids, it might be a better strategy for those who are in the top clubs to actually not put them on your top guardians, but to put them on your weaker guardians. So that way they qualify for certain nodes and have a better chance at taking down those specific sentinels that you're trying to take down. Yeah. So this, depending on where you are, in your Mirrorverse journey, you may want to put them on your top guardians and you may want to put them on your weaker guardians. So that's one of the cool things I like about it too.
Yeah. No, I agree. I asked them also kind of how many different relics do we have in the game? There's a lot. They talked about, I asked about power boost and I asked about the total number of relics. They said the inventory can hold 1,000 relics. The inventory that we're going to get, they said, is going to hold 1,000 relics, and there's well more. How do you like that? Well more. There is a lot more than 1,000 relics in this game. So there's a lot going into this system. Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting because we all know we're gonna get some bad combo. Our first legendary is gonna be like, I don't know. I'm gonna say Blade Wielder, but like it's gonna be one of the ones that we don't need or don't want, right? It's gonna be whatever the book one is.
Guest is gonna get one specific for Baloo.
Yeah,
100%. 100%.
It's not going to be leader, or it's not going to be one of the ones that all of our good guardians have.
Yeah,
it's going to be bookkeeper or book smart or Just one of the dumb ones that like 5 Guardians have that we don't use, right? So
yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Luckily, Booksmart is hero, but originally it wasn't. You know, it was only like Bell or something.
Yeah.
But.
As far as power boost, and really
I see
quick,
Lori
just
saying in the chat. Ooh.
Sorry,
go ahead. My bad.
Oh, just to
She's
recognize.
saying scary.
Fanat Booby, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate the support there. When I asked about power increase, they said that some legendaries. Now, I want to make sure I quote this correctly, so I'm going to be vague in the fact that I can't remember exactly what terminology was used, but some legendaries, I don't know if they were referring to all or some, can increase a stat or some stats by 30%. So when you take a look at this, when you take a look at these relics and you take a look at the power adjustment that just happened, even if you take into account the power adjustment that happened, last month, these relics are intended to make a significant power increase to your Guardians. So just kind of, I think that's just another balancing mechanism in the game to kind of help with that too. So, I mean, I was encouraged with that. We'll see once everything, once relics are out and we're able to play around with them and we can start doing our mathing and stuff like that. But we're supposed to see a pretty significant power boost with that.
Yeah, I mean, look at if you look at that dev diary, right, and you pull that up, and you scroll down to where you can see, I think it's the legendary, the yellow one. If you look over on the stat, it says gravity defying trait bonus is 30% on all effects. Now, and that's like a level 2, right? It's got 2 upgrade marks.
Yep.
So the idea there would be like, okay, is that, I mean, that's per relic, right? So each relic would have 30% if they were all at that same level, same trait and everything. Plus, you get the collection bonus of 20%. Yep. So if you imagine that, let's just say all 4 of these relics are that same relic. You essentially have 30, 30, 30, 30. So you're at 120% plus the extra 20%. So now you're at 140, and potentially they got more to upgrade there. So
Yep.
I don't know. So I think that's where relics are going to get crazy if you can find the right ones, especially if you can get that collection bonus.
Nope. Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed. And because I know a lot of people were also, from the same exact image, they were disheartened because they saw, this one item, this legendary ring, was adding on only, it says like in this one, 129 power. It's got the 2 stones also equipped onto it, so it's been upgraded before, and it's only adding 129. You can't almost look at the power at that case if you end up getting all of the trait bonuses. So your numbers will lie to you tremendously. So just be aware of that too.
Yeah, because she doesn't have the gravity defying bonus. So add that extra percent in there, and like I said, times it by 4. Because that's where you want to be. You want to have all 4 of them have that same trait. So, I think overall, like, these things are going to be insane. And when you think of those, going back to when we were talking about riff rates for a second, some of those tier 30 things that are 100K recommended power, I don't think we're going to make it to 100K, but I think our teams can get closer to 20K once you have 3 Guardians, Astral 10, level 100, and I know this is like Dream Christmas Land, but all of them have those 4 relics fully maxed out. Like you can have some serious teams once we eventually get there a year or 2 from now.
No, I agree. There's a long road ahead for this. And again, just kind of also want to make sure to throw this out to everybody as well. As far as feedback goes, the developers love feedback. We've talked about it before, how much they take into consideration the feedback that we give. Please make sure once you jump into here and you play around with relics and you play around with riff rates, give feedback to the Discord. Make sure it's constructive. I mean, if it's not constructive, obviously it doesn't help anybody, but make sure it's constructive and just kind of give your true thoughts on how you feel about the game mode. How do you feel about it? Don't worry about numbers and stuff. Do you enjoy playing it? Is it something that is going to bring you back to the game? Are there components of rift raids and relics and everything that you're going to be doing that continues to want you to improve your Guardians? Because the only way you're going to be successful and max out and finally eventually get to tier 30 in, 20, 30, 40, 50 years is continuing to do these types of game modes. And it's not different than any other game out there. Every other game out there adds progression mechanics. and different types of game modes that they bring to the game. And I mean, Disney Mirrorverse and every mobile game you played are going to do that because it needs to bring us into the game and want us to be able to improve our roster so that we can tackle the more difficult content. So I'm excited. I'm super excited to get in here with everybody, with all of you. I know it was fun sitting down. The three of us, we were on a Discord call, just kind of throwing stuff out and doing whatever and just kind of experiencing the whole thing. And it was a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Yeah. We're going to be doing the same thing on Thursday. So we had a ton of fun play testing this thing. And Thursday, if you guys come in, I think we're starting probably around 8 or so, 8 Eastern, my time, I guess 5 Pacific for Unstable over there. These guys may start sooner than that, but I think that's when we're going to be kicking off our Rift Raid. We'll all be streaming, so make sure to hit all 3 of the channels, kind of bounce back and forth. Yep. We're going to do like this. You'll see us on each other's stream. We'll be showcasing the different pieces. It's going to be a ton of fun because, again, I enjoyed hanging out with you guys during the tests. Again, just talking and having fun. And, yeah, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy, and I can't wait for it. And, I'm sure any of you guys out there, if you want to, jump in, hang out with us, ask questions, things like that, get some tactics, I don't know, strategy, or just tell us how bad we're doing. Whatever you want to do. We're going to be having some fun on Thursday.
Yeah. And actually, really I've not seen this done before, but so Dan's been working on an overlay that looks pretty cool where all 3 of us, I think all 3 of us are going to be using the same overlay, and we're going to be showing each other's streams. I don't know how it's going to work exactly. These guys are much smarter when it comes to streaming and stuff than I am, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there slowly. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely check out all of our channels here on Twitch and just kind of bounce back and forth between all of us. See what we're all doing. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I really want to give a minute to Guest because Guest has an extremely important day coming up tomorrow. These types of milestones, I think, are just phenomenal because I just passed my 4 years on creating content on YouTube. Guest has a pretty cool milestone tomorrow, and he's got a lot of fun stuff going on. So while we got everybody here, just want to give the floor to you, Guest, to kind of give let everybody know what you have going on. Why is tomorrow such a special day?
Tomorrow is special because for the first time in months, actually no, technically years, we're gonna have DefaultDan live on stream, completely go bald and clean shaven. I am so excited. No, I'm kidding.
Oh man, to him. I was excited.
No,
let's see what Mrs. Dan says.
No, she will kill me.
She's gonna fly to Brazil and get you
tomorrow. She'll reach through the screen. But no, for real though, tomorrow is my 2-year anniversary of streaming live here on Twitch. And we're going to be doing a double giveaway style day because the devs from both Disney Mirrorverse and Disney Sorcerer's Arena have gifted us a tremendous amount to be able to give away. This is the first time that anyone in the KCP has given away orbs directly from the game company as well. We've got packs of 3,000, 1,500, and 1,000 orbs to give away. If you're from the Disney Sorcerer's Arena community, I've got runes for days to give away, energy, loyalty coins, the whole routine. We're going to be giving those away as well. We'll be taking a look and flashing back to some clips over the last 2 years and just kind of just hanging out, playing some of the game, answering some questions, and hopefully talking more about what's going to happen later on, over the next couple of weeks. Because between Rift Raids on Thursday, I might start streaming actually even earlier on Thursday before that. I don't know yet, though. I have to wait and see how patch notes for DSA goes. And because who knows? And then I've got my birthday stream in a couple of weeks. Then we've got the craft beer pairing stream in 2 weeks after that. It's just like, there's so much happening that we're going to just I want tomorrow to be just a really good time. I just want to have a good time. I want to invite people to come hang out in my home, as we've done for the last 2 years. So we've got a lot to give away. I hope you guys come enjoy it as well. Use the username, it's GuestGaming. Come find me here on Twitch. We're going to have a good time tomorrow, especially if you like free stuff, because I will bribe a good time with free things. Shamelessly.
And you know what I have to say? So first, guest, congratulations, 2 years on Twitch doing this. And I think, one of the cool things is, I think, the dream for a lot of us really is to make this a full-time gig. And some of us can do it and some of us can't. You've been able to do that. You've been pretty successful at it. You've made great content. And I've seen both Twitch as well as your YouTube content. So a lot of great stuff coming from you. So congratulations. Can't wait to see what else you do as we go, as we move forward. And just kind of moving on in over to Dan as well. Dan, both of you, I have to say, both of you, I've learned a lot in the short period of time that we've been communicating. I mean, come on, hold on a second, Dan. You're going to appreciate this. This is going to mess everything up on the screen, but I got to show you guys.
Totally fine.
Right here. Check this out. Oh, there's my dancing. There's the dancing. All right. This is my overlay for Marvel Snap. These guys inspire me.
Such a long way, man.
I know, right? So these guys inspire me.
Now he's lost the other scene. There we go.
But y'all are so much fun. Dan, you've got a lot of great content too. I love what you do on Twitch and on YouTube also. So I want to give you a second to just kind of let everybody know where to find you, what you're all about.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, if you guys like Mirrorverse, Marvel Snap is the other one I've been streaming, just like Unstable was showing there. You can come check it out over on twitch.tv/DefaultDan and then the YouTube/DefaultDan. YouTube pretty much is Mirrorverse specific. But yeah, we post all the time over there. Love doing it. And like I said, we're gonna start messing around with our stream times and our stream stuff, but for the most part, you can find me always on Mondays and Wednesdays streaming. Tonight we're over here. Most of you guys followed us over, but we'll be back Wednesday, I believe, for a little bit, and then we'll be back on Thursday for the full stream, just hanging out with these guys and just having tons of fun. So yeah, I appreciate you, man, because again, love your content over on YouTube. Love that you're expanding here on Twitch and you're learning, because I know you're asking us questions. We're always here to help. Yep. Because it's just a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. All right. I think with that, we're pretty much done. We've talked about Rift Raids. We talked about Relics, the interview that happened Friday, the goof up that I did. If you haven't seen that whole thing, just go ahead and watch the video that I posted today. You'll get it. But a lot of good information there, too, from the developers. Just if the developers are watching this
go watch it
at all, I just want to thank the developers, too, for all of their time, all of their patience. I swear, I feel like sometimes we spam them in the KCP chat with questions and suggestions and all sorts of stuff, and they are just they're absolutely phenomenal to work with. So it's been absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
All right, that is it. That's it for the stream. That's it for this. Just, one last thing. Make sure to check out the YouTube channel and Twitch for all three of us. You know where to find us. A lot of good stuff. Also, make sure to join, if you haven't already, be a part of the official Discord for Disney Mirrorverse. We all have our Discords as well, so definitely check that out. You can find links in our videos that we put out as well. I believe everybody has that in there, so just kind of check it all out. With that, Evie, good to see you. I saw you. With that, I want to thank everybody. Thank you all for coming over from Dan's stream as well. I want to thank my guests, Dan and Guest, for being guests on this stream. You guys are always so much fun to hang out with, so appreciate you you both taking some time as well. All right.
Appreciate
with that,
absolutely.
We'll say goodbye. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Keep an eye out for everything happening this week. Bye. If I can find the right button. The button.
Wrong lever!
Wait, hold on. See,
still
look at
going.
This. Real streamer stuff. Here we go.
Why don't we even have that?
No, that's not it either.
Broken.
That's not it.
Broken.
Here we go.
He needs the command.
Take care, everybody.